Hello.
Uh,
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's not 7:30, is it?
I just got done with my notes at like 7:32. There's a lot. It's hard not to like. I don't know.
Yep. It's tough. It's tough to balance. Oh, yeah, look at that. Even got the previously on going.
Hmm.
Nice. Sweet. All right. Well, I love these. I love how it's all just past, present, future, past, present.
I didn't know how else to do it.
Good.
There's a lot of jumping around in this episode.
Yeah. All right. What do you think?
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about the previously on?
Nah, let's keep it. You can do it.
Oh man, that means I have to understand all this.
I mean, if you want, I can do it though. But it's usually you always do it, so it's like.
I only do it because I write it usually.
Oh, well, I'll do it then.
Okay, cool. All right. I suppose we should get it going then. So like this is the first instance where it's come up, but look at it. I wish I had done it as like seasons in the titles, but because they say obviously they say season 2 episode 1 for this, unlike Star Wars stuff where they're like chapters for everything. And
Hmm. Yeah, this is in chapter Loki
but
7.
uh, what's that?
This is Loki 7.
I mean, it is. It's just it's just the format I've been doing so far. Um,
I'm just gonna say it's episode 1 of season 2.
yeah. I mean, I'm mainly wondering for the podcast file itself, but or the title,
Gotcha.
because I'd be changing the format if I suddenly did. Well, yeah, if I did S2, whatever. Yeah,
Episode 7.
Mandalorian kind of confused things when I
Hmm.
didn't really. But all right, let's get started then.
Yes, sir.
In 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Disnerds Plus, where we talk about your favorite nerdy shows on Disney Plus, the streaming service provided by Disney. Hey, it's episode 5050. Woo! It seems like a
Yeah,
significant number, maybe.
that's a lot of episodes.
This is for Thursday, October 19th, 2023. Today we're talking about the first episode of the second season of Loki, which just happens to also be the 7th episode in the series.
You really want to call it episode 7, don't you?
Well, they just had to screw up the format for me.
It's not Star Wars. Star Wars is the only one that does that.
It's also no Marvel show has had a second season yet, so we don't really have anything to base this on.
I don't think Marvel wouldn't do that. I don't think they'd steal that format.
Yeah, maybe not.
It's like a Star Wars thing now at this point.
Maybe not, but there is still an episode count regardless. And
Yeah.
besides, I don't know how many seasons they're gonna do of Loki. I mean,
I
not
think
like
it's
it
only
even
gonna
matters.
I think it's only gonna go until this current saga that they're trying to make.
Right, exactly. So I don't know what the point of even saying well, they're gonna divide it into seasons regardless.
Well, I
But
mean, Loki is the one that really helped the multiverse saga start. I mean, it started with him.
yeah, yeah,
That'd be
for
funny
sure.
if it actually ended with season 3 of Loki. Like that's how it all ends.
Yep. Yeah. So, hey, let's quick tell this. Mike just happened to provide a little recap here, so we may as well talk about
Previously on
Loki. Take it away.
Season 1. All
Season-
right, so Loki is being arrested by the TVA after stealing a tesseract from what was Avengers Endgame and their time heist, right? Was it time heist? Yeah, they called it time heist. So then we see Loki getting taken in, and you hear Miss Minutes talking about the variants and meeting Mobius, and Loki goes over his life with Mobius and talks about Loki variants. Throughout the whole episode, Loki starts, or the season, Loki starts, helping try to find this other Loki variant, which is Sylvie, and Sylvie's just rampaging on the TVA and wants to destroy them and find who basically runs the TVA. Throughout that whole thing, Loki tells Mobius that the timekeeper keeps timekeepers
Yeah.
didn't create them and were kidnapped by the timeline from the timeline. And then we see Hunter B-15 and Renslayer talk about the timekeepers being fake and that they're all variants, their lives are stolen. And then we start hearing like basically he remains going over how he paved the road for Loki and Sylvie to get to him.
And yeah, Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors is
hey.
still in this one, and plus with all that news, it sounds like he's winning his fight with all that legal stuff
I've heard
that's
so
gone
much
on.
back and forth on it, but
Yeah, I think he's gonna win that, but that's my opinion. But
okay.
anywho,
But also in at least in the other MCU properties, it's oh, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. Short name.
Kang,
I want to say Khan.
Kang, the Conqueror, which was
Uh-huh.
an Ant-Man.
Yes. Quantumania.
So, yep, Quantumania.
Oh, which by the way, we talk about how Quantumania has Ant-Man in the middle of the name because it's revealed at the end of the movie. I guess that's not really a spoiler, but anyway, Quantumania has Ant-Man in the middle of the name Quantumania. Anyway, go ahead.
Nice. So He Who Reigns goes over, if you kill him, it would allow the timeline to branch, and a lot of his variants are also known as Kangs would be free, and it would just start another multiversal war and be crazy, which ultimately will happen. Sylvie and Loki argue and fight for, trying to see both sides, and they're just not seeing it the same way. And then she kisses Loki, and then as she's doing that, opens a time door or time portal and pushes him through. Then at that point, Sylvie kills He Who Remains, and then he says, "See you soon," because he knows now that there's going to be several new variants, and basically he'll be reborn.
Yeah,
Loki,
I don't really. I mean, I remember this, but I didn't remember his really kind of a lack of reaction to being stabbed.
maybe he just doesn't. It doesn't like pain doesn't affect him anymore. I mean, you think about it, he's been around because he's at the end of time for probably who knows how long.
Right.
Like
Also,
he lives outside of time almost.
kind of like kissing your sister, like that whole thing. Like, I don't know if you're a variant. Do you have the same similar DNA? I guess that's not the same. I guess
Maybe
it's
you have the same temporal aura, technically,
same
in
temporal
here.
aura. Yeah, there you go.
So maybe
It's
that's.
really like
I mean,
kissing
they all like.
yourself, but
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it is like kissing yourself, but on the female version. So then we see Loki running through the TVA, and he finds Mobius and B-15, and they're talking about does he want us to stop, or what's going on? And Loki's like, you can't, and talks about he remains, but doesn't say his name yet. And they are like, who? They don't know who he is. As they're talking and trying to figure out who Loki is, Loki looks over to a statue of Kang, and then that's where it cuts. So now,
Giant statue.
giant statue. Used to be timekeepers, not the giant statue of Kang. But we then go, starting in the TVA, we see another statue of Kang, and Loki's running away from Mobius, and hunters and gets trapped by B-15 and her hunters. As he's trying to like talk to them and like, Mobius, you know me. Mobius is like, no, I don't know you, and basically doesn't know what doing, and he basically leaps off the side of the building, TVA building, wherever they're at, and falls into a hover truck, mind you, that runs into Kang statue's face and cracks a nice little like indentation in his cheek.
Did it dent? Yeah. I mean, so I was a little surprised when he just dove off, but it's because he's a god or whatever.
Well, you didn't want to get pruned.
Right. I mean, I guess, but like, is it because he's like a god? No, is he a god? No, he's a different.
Loki?
Yeah, he's a.
Yeah, Loki's technically a god.
Yeah, is that why like he can survive something like that?
Probably. He probably can just take better hits than normal.
Because he's a different. I understand that he's a different, like, species than, or is he right? He's a shapeshifter, right?
He's not a shapeshifter. He's more like a witch, because he learned from Frigga, which was a witch.
Oh.
So he learned all her skills from him.
Yeah, I mean, I might also be confusing it with a what if thing where he's
Yeah, he was a giant frost giant in that.
Oh, I don't know why I'd be confusing it with that, but
he was also an alligator in one of his variants. So
that's
there's
true.
that too.
Among many things, but so is but he was adopted, right?
Yep.
Okay, that part I got right, but he's still. I don't know if they're not human, they're gods. That's different, I guess.
They're Asgardians. I don't know what Asgardians
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
They never explained it, but they're just gods and are in the books. Yeah. Okay, so Loki they basically, the truck crashes into a window after hitting the statue. Yeah, they did this again. And then crashes into a window, where then Loki falls out of the truck and sees Casey, and the truck falls out of the window, and he's basically looking down. Loki's looking down. He's like, she's fine. As the truck kind of putters up, and you can see it flying away. So I thought that was funny. And the TVA monitor is different, and then it falls and basically on the floor, in the middle of the floor, and cracks the floor.
Yeah, so the car falling out the window. But we hear a scream and a crash. I don't think she was fine.
No, it was not a crash. You could hear, you saw her go up. You heard the put put. That's what you heard. It wasn't a crash. It was put put, and then it came back up because you could see it smoking from the back.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You don't believe me?
I didn't
You're
say
like,
that. I was watching this on the treadmill. Okay, cut me some slack.
So yeah, there's a crack now. That TVA monitor, you can tell, is different. It's a lot smaller. It's orange. from the one we saw in the first season, and it falls and cracks the TVA floor. We hear B-15 over like the speakers calling out about intruder, and then Loki asks Casey if he knows him, and Casey just looks at him and just starts calling for backup. While calling for help, Loki violently looking like he is being pulled apart.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of kind of reminded me of the Venom effect almost, like the the way that that the tar or whatever it is kind of pulls apart.
Yeah, it's like stringy.
Yeah, but with skin.
Yeah. So then, all of a sudden, he's gone. Then we see Casey in what we think is it's like the same room. Or no, first, sorry. Once we see Loki like kind of just disappear, then we see him reappear in front of like these orange windows, which is actually the same room he was just in. And he turns around and sees Casey. That's like kind of like shocked that he's like there. Like, what the heck? How did you just get here?
Yeah,
And with it, oh, go ahead.
maybe we should reiterate who Casey was from the first one. The dude at the like lobby, not a lobby, but what was?
He was like the clerk at that point, but
clerk's a good, yeah.
Loki found him and told him to give him the Tesseract. He was gonna gut him like a fish. And Casey's like, "What's a fish?"
and he had all the Infinity Stones as like paperweights in his drawer.
Yep. Yeah. There's tons of these. We use them just as paperweights. So then, so Loki then looks at the floor and sees a crack on the floor and where the mire fell, the orange mire, where he was previously at. And Loki says he was in the past of the TVA and asks Casey, "Where's Mobius and B-15?" And as he explains, as Casey's explaining, you hear Loki grunt, and then he's gone.
Yeah, wasn't he like walking away at that point? Like he didn't.
Yeah,
actually...
you just hear Loki going like kind of thing, and then Casey's like turns around like, Loki, like he's just freaking out, like what the hell's happening here? We then see Mobius and B-15 are seen looking at the timeline branching and talking about telling the TVA workforce the truth about their variants, and then you see the lights start to flicker, and they kind of look around like, what the heck's going on? Casey finds Mobius and says Loki was here and then disappeared and looked like he was in pain. And then Mobius tries to pull up Miss Minutes to kind of see if he can get some info, and Miss Minutes is not answering at this point because she's probably with the what's her name, Renslayer.
Oh, real quick. So that device, I don't know what you call it, PDA or whatever.
Their temp pad.
Yeah. So like, is when you see the previous, when you see Casey initially, he like holds up his version of that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he holds up the call for backup when you first see Loki.
Oh yeah, because the
building.
Yeah, because they're saying over the. See, this was something that confused me at the time, and now I'm maybe starting to understand because they're saying something over the PA about an escaped.
Yeah, because he just jumped above, like he's a few floors down, probably below where he was at.
Okay, for some reason I thought they were talking about somebody else at this point, but okay, yeah, makes sense.
Let's see. Then we start hearing someone talking about talking to Mobius, and we're introduced to X5, and he asks Mobius why he has a jet ski magazine and if it's and if the jet skis are from the sacred timeline.
Yeah, this
Mobius
guy's
then,
real already or comes off as a real winner right off the bat.
oh
Talking
yeah,
smack about Mobius.
yeah, he's special. We learn he's special. Uh, Mobius explains jet skis, and X5 doesn't care and says the new judges council would like to see them, and that General Dox and Judge Gamble would like to see them in the war room. As Mobius and Being 15 are walking down the hallway, Loki jumps. Loki calls out to Mobius basically, and
Yeah.
he. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm thinking. I'm looking at the wrong thing. As Mobius and B15 leave, Loki jumps back right in front of Casey, and then that's where Casey asks Mobius, or where Mobius is, where he's at. Where am I? And we then go back to B15 and Mobius. As they're walking, we see Loki say Mobius, so kind of like Moby, and then he just disappears again.
He's calling for the EDM or techno artist
Yeah,
Moby.
yeah.
No, but I thought it was kind
Uh,
of funny that B15 doesn't even like. She's just like, what?
yeah. It's like she didn't even hear anything. It's
Yeah.
weird. Um, as they're going to the war room, the lights start to flicker again, and then they see D90 come out of the war room and apologize to Mobius for pruning him. And Mobius is like, "Oh, it should be. I'm more mad at Renslayer at this point. That's the one I should be blaming for the pruning." Which is, yeah, it about makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then we then see Loki reappear in the same hallway that he just disappeared from, where he saw Mobius and whatnot, and then enters the war room. Um, no one's in the war room, but sees a wall mural of Kang, or He Who Remains, and kind of just like, I think he kind of just steps back for a moment, like, well, okay. Then we go back to the war room where D90 came out of, and we hear a recording telling Mobius that all the TVA are variants. Then we see Mobius and B15 enter the war room as they're hear the audio recording. Um, we also see one of the head of the timekeeper that was cut off by Sylvie. It's a robot head. Um, then Judge Gamble then says the timeline is branching and way past red line, and why they have stopped pruning. General Dox orders B15 to do this by the book, as B15 was about to answer, and she's like, "No, we gotta have this recorded," and blah blah blah. So B15 has to sit down, kind of, I don't know, light her her area up and record it, just so
Um,
it's on the record.
is so you said you said a robot head. I mean, did they? It's been a while, but did the fake timekeepers, like, were they actually like animatronic? Like, did they do anything? I'm trying to remember or did they just
They were
literally
just sat
stand there?
there.
So they're more
I
like
think it was just
statues, right? Like, again,
They
if
just sat
they.
there floating, but they were all controlled by He Who Remains, because like all those voices out of the timekeepers were Jonathan Majors.
Oh wow.
Yep. Aha, deep cut.
Yeah, I actually did not know that. That's the whole first season. That was him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another quick question. So, and I'm sure a lot of this will be answered, but like, I mean, you'd have to be. I mean, most people are going to be confused at this point. This isn't just me, right? Like, in terms of pretty much anything MCU, but let alone when you've got all these branching timelines, and then like, you've got the multiverse stuff with Spider-Man, you got the multiverse stuff with Doctor Strange, and uh, so And yeah, and then the quantum stuff with Quantumania. So like Kang, we see in that. Like, do you understand how he ties into this into He Who Remains? Like, no, we will learn more.
I
I
have
guess.
Yeah, that's still a mystery. Who like if like there's things that say like, well, maybe the king that died, like that we think died in Ant-Man probably didn't because he just got sucked into something, is actually who remains in Loki. But I that's a theory that people throw out there, but I don't know. I have no idea who we're looking at. That's the same with Victor. There's that end credit scene of Victor
No.
Timely, another variant, and it's like don't know who that one is either, but we'll find out.
Oh, at the end credits of Quantumania, or
Ant-Man. Yeah.
because because it was Quantumania that had the like three different variations of him, right? Or is
I
that a
mean,
different? Is that a different
that
movie?
was that was Quantumania, but there was three talking, but when they opened up the main
Oh, there's a whole
Coliseum, it was
bunch
like
of them. Yeah,
tons of Kangs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I lost where I'm at. Where am I?
You can just look where I'm highlighted usually.
I don't see where you're highlighted.
Judge
Oh,
Gamble. You don't see that?
yeah, I already said that. Okay. So then General Docs orders B-15 to, yeah, oh, I said that too. Uh, so B-15 tells Docs and Gamble that we just need time to explain. And then we jump back to Loki. He's in the war room, but they're not in there because now I think it was mentioned before that he said he's in the past TVA. So technically, this is like the past TVA at this point. Um, so we see Loki look at the mall mural and see the tape player
I guess that makes yeah. Like
and
I,
what
the more I'm putting this together, I guess it makes it because I was trying to think like, well, how does Loki kind of ultimately put it together that it's the past? But I guess it's
because of that
because
crack in the floor.
right, right, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, but also, and
Because they
maybe
also said the prior season that time works differently, and even in this, like they're like can't you can't there's no past, present, or future in TVA.
sure,
But
and I guess is that part of the reason he kind of figures out that the because Kang's or He Who Remains statue is there that he ultimately I mean did
I think no, he figured the past out after the fact that he got back to the present, and then he saw the the TVA floor where the new Maya, the actual that bigger Maya as we're used to,
yeah
it shows a timeline is over. And I have to go. I would have to go back to season one to see if that floor was actually cracked, but I don't think it was at that point.
oh yeah that'd be crazy
Yeah,
yeah because yeah I guess because Casey's like yeah it's always been there or as long as
yeah.
he remembered but in hindsight yeah it does make
And it's
sense
just like, and well, I mean, there's also scenes later on that also explain that same kind of concept. Like that's like he went in the past, and all of a sudden, oh, people are like, wait, what?
yeah
I remember this now.
and also the fact that it is a statue of Who Remains who ultimately creates the timekeepers. It makes sense that it
Well,
would
I don't
be.
know if he's he who remains at that point, or if he's still calling himself Kang because he's dressed as Kang. You
Oh,
know?
gotcha.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, because
yeah.
the series has not yet actually used the name Kang, right?
No, maybe we'll see him at the end. See a variant of Kang, or what they call Kang. Because I haven't heard. I've only seen one iteration of Jonathan Majors calling his character Kang, and that was in Quantum Mania.
Mm-hmm.
So, more to come. So yeah, so Loki sees a tape player and starts playing the tape and can hear Kang or He Who Remains. I don't know, so that's why I
Yeah,
put it that way.
we can just start calling him Kang. Probably it's shorter.
Yeah. So And Loki rewinds the tape because he's like wondering. Sounds like Kang's talking to someone, so he's wondering who. And you hear Ravonna Renslayer talking with Kang and talking about like without her they couldn't win the war, and she's marvelous
Another
or a marvel. She's a
pr-
marvel.
yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. But also
In the
another.
comics, he did have a love interest, and it was her, but she was a princess in
Oh,
the
Mobius.
comics.
Um, two real quick things. I another fine example of the like retro. It's not steampunk, but it's kind of like that in that it's like futuristic and past like combined with the using physical tape and everything like that. And also, what is with Marvel like having names that are so close together, like Morbius and Mobius? Like, I don't know. It's not MCU. I know Morbius is an MCU, but
You can't. Maybe one day it will be. Who knows?
yeah. Whenever, whenever Disney, yeah, at some point it might be considered a
By
monopoly or
Sony
something.
Pictures.
Yeah, but yeah. So what is it? Ravonna? How do you say it?
Ravonna.
Yeah. Yeah. So she. What happened to her again?
She went through time doors saying she's going to look for free will, which I think meant Kang.
Right. But did she prune Mobius?
No, she ordered someone to prune him. That was D90.
But
The one that came out of the war room and said, "Sorry, the Mobius, I pruned you."
right.
I was
Yeah.
just going by following orders. And I sort of like, yeah, Renslayer is the one I have a beef to, beef with.
Sure. And the pruning took him to the like world of variance.
The Void.
The Void. Star Wars. They were talking about the Void in Star Wars too. At one point.
All right. Back to present TVA. General Docs asks, under whose authority did B-15 get to stop pruning branches? And she basically just says, no one, and just said stop because we were killing people. Then Judge Gamble states that D90's testimony corroborates with B-15, saying, talking about seeing Ravonna Renslayer's variant on the timeline, which is she was a teacher. Can't remember her actual name, but she was a teacher. X5 says on the record B-15, and she's said basically says to hell with the record, and states that they all had a life on the timeline. Mobius starts saying nothing has changed, and X5 says everything has changed and points to the robot head on the table. And then Docs is like, I will not allow the timeline to branch, and wants to protect. But B-15 says it's atrocities, and Docs is like, watch your tone. Like this General Docs is like trying to be like the new TVA leader, and like almost not listening to what Judge Gamble's talking about anymore.
Yeah. Is everyone in this room? Well, not everyone in this room, but is everyone at this table a new character?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Including X5.
Yep, they weren't in the last season.
New in the sense of not being in the last. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Judge Gamble talks about giving the same verdict of guilty to variants and pruning them. She looks sad about it, like, man, like kind of hitting her. Gamble says she can do anything and orders TVA over the PA to stop pruning immediately.
Which I did not see coming.
No, me neither. I thought she was gonna go the other way. Like, we need to stop this now.
Right.
As she gives those orders, Loki jumps literally right in front of her, and I think she just looked there like,
yeah,
hell?
She didn't even react. Unlike Casey.
Right. So yeah, we see Loki runs to Mobius. As X5 looks to be ready to prune Loki. So Dax and B5 are telling him to stand down, and then Dox is like, stand down, like she's just gotta listen to her voice. And she's just like, I don't know if she was telling them to stand down or X5 to stand down, so prune Loki or what. I don't know. It was just chaos. So Loki asks Mobius if he recognizes him. He says yes, and Loki says we found him, and Mobius says him who, and Loki looks at the wall where in the past it was Kang, but in the present it shows a wall with the timekeepers. So then Loki just basically like just starts walking over to that wall, but then grabs X5 prune stick and prunes the timekeeper wall to show the Kang wall, and they all look like surprised and maybe a little like scared.
Yeah. Also, is this the first time we've seen the prune stick used on an inanimate object?
I believe so. Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting because it uses a I guess it has like a certain area that it that it expands to or something.
Yeah, it can only probably go so much. I mean, it prunes matter, so anything that has matter is pruned. So
So
that's
it
why
just gets
you
set
see in the
like
that's why
that.
you see in the void like there's buildings everywhere too.
So that wall
They can
just
get
got
pruned.
dropped into the void.
Yeah.
Fell. That would be cool if there was a callback if they wind up there and it just falls on someone
see
or
the
something.
see the pruned wall. Um, they all look surprised about the timekeeper wall, and Loki says that's who built the TV and that's who stole your lives. Mobius then comes over and says, "Calm down," and says Sylvie killed him, and they start walking out of the war room. As you know, X5 grabs his prune stick pretty like quick there, and then there's a weird moment with X5 and Dox putting their heads together and talking about the warnings are real and the timekeepers are fake, but the warnings are real.
Yeah,
So
I kind of assumed that they were like mom and son or something, or
it gave me Game of Thrones vibes with that actress, because remember she was in Game of Thrones and she has her like 10-year-old son like just
oh, is it
breastfeeding. I'm like,
that lady?
what the hell? Yeah, I was like, what?
The one with the I want to call it like a moon roof, but it's a what they
Moon
call
door.
it door.
Yeah, remember she fell through it.
uh, yeah.
Uh,
After she,
yeah.
her and what's his
They're trying to
face, the
kill
little
what's yeah
sparrow or what's his name, Littlefinger.
no, not Littlefinger.
Well, Littlefinger like marries her, right? Later
Oh
on.
yeah, Littlefinger marries her. I think he's the one that pushed her out of the.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, and she was the cray sister of Cat, right? Cat.
Yep, she was nuts.
Yeah.
So then Doc says they need to find Sylvie and find out what happened at the end of time. Loki and Mobius are then seen talking about what happened at the end of time, as they're basically just going back and forth. What's going on? Where's Sylvie? Loki says that the man at the end of time made sense, and it's scared, and is scared of him. Loki's scared of him, basically. Loki then points out the mural of Kangs that where they're kind of standing, and they see the mural of Kangs, and he's like, that's what's coming. Tells Mobius the man's name is He Who Remains, and that he built the TVA. And Mobius and Loki talk about uh, his time slipping, and that he was in the past TVA. And then Mobius tried to call Miss Minutes for help, and Loki says not to call her, and that she's basically with He Who Remains, or on his side.
Yeah, she was like
Mobius,
the door person, basically. Had
yeah,
to.
yeah, but she runs a lot of stuff in the TVA apparently, so
Yeah.
that might be a problem. Mobius says they need to figure out this time slipping thing, and Mobius is horrified by how it looks, and he asks, "Is like, isn't it? It looks fine." And then he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, then it looks painful." And then he's like, what? And he asked, there was another person in the elevator they were in, and asked us, like, what do you think? Did that
No,
look painful? And she just looks like horrified
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
like just standing there in the corner.
The scene was great for multiple reasons. First, because yeah, at first he's like, yeah, no, it's not that bad, and then he's
I
progressively
love how
getting.
you try your
God, I gotta workshop it, but uh, but then it just progressively gets to, oh god, it looks horrible, like, but then yeah, after the person in the elevator, it like pans over because we're not meant to think anyone else is in the elevator until that point. They're just
right?
staring blankly.
That was fun. So then they then are seen walking through the greenish hallway in a workshop of sorts, and they see a man repelling from the ceiling and introduces himself as Ouroboros or
Yay!
OB, and
Yeah,
that's
this is the thing I got quote not spoiled, but like this is the one thing that Disney was like advertising in
yo,
their like
yeah,
Instagram
that we
posts or
wanted
whatever.
because that yeah, I think it's awesome to see him come down. It's Ki Hugh Kwan,
Yeah, and I
right? Is
didn't
that how
know
you say it?
initially that it was him. But yeah, like eventually I figured it out. But um, yeah, I love it. Guys popping up and everything now. It's great.
Yeah, it's like his moments.
By the
He's got it going.
by the way, yeah. So Ouroboros is the self-eating snake. That's
Yeah.
yeah. What that whole thing is.
I think that has something to do with this season.
Oh yeah,
It's
I'm
like
sure.
it's definitely it's got deeper meaning than just a character
I
for
really
sure.
only know that because Chris Metzen of well, he worked at Blizzard and then he didn't. Now he's back at Blizzard, so maybe we'll see him there at BlizzCon. Uh,
Oh,
he did this like D&D book called Ouroboros, which the front cover has like a figure eight of a snake eating its own tail. But
nice. Yep, yeah, that's basically what it is.
yeah, Obi was yeah. What he says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on. Go on. Sorry.
Huh? um. So he's like, Ob comes down. He's like Mobius, like happy to see him, and Mobius is like, kind of like, oh hey, he kind of doesn't know what, like he doesn't know him or something, and so and Ob asks like, how long has it been? And he's like, Mobius is like, I don't know, 3, 4, and Obi's like 400 years, and then he talks about how they met, like Mobius basically got lost and needed to need help with direction or something like that, and he's like, and Mobius is like, oh yeah, then that's when we hung out, and Obi's like, no, you left immediately after. Like, oh, like
Which some of this kind of checks out with if if it's true that his mind's been wiped multiple times, like maybe this fits
right.
into that.
But maybe OB didn't get his mind wiped because he remembers, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But he also seems like he's got a lot of things he's running, so maybe they may or he remains just forgot about OB and like forgot to wipe his memory.
I almost think he might rely on him based on his responsibilities here, like
Yeah,
for
maybe.
running things.
Pot, yeah, for sure. Uh, okay, so OB, Loki, and Mobius talk about his work and ask questions, and Mobius is failing badly because every time he asks him, like, "Oh, how's the other guys?" He's like, "What other guys? It was just me." Like, "Oh, well, how is everything?" And just it's just awkward, and Loki's just seems to be loving it, like, "Oh yeah." It's like just basking in like Mobius just trying to act like he knows who things, and it's just
Yeah.
bad. Um, so then they try to get OB to like they get him to help them with this time slipping issue, and as Mobius is trying to explain, they see Loki disappear again, and Obi says, "Wow, time slipping," and Mobius says, "You've seen that?" Obi says, he says it's impossible to time slip in the TVA, but they just they just
Saw it.
saw it happen. Oops.
Yeah, and
So
yeah, so the whole time you gotta love Ki Hui. Is it Ki Hui Kwan? Is it? I don't know how to say the
Hugh Kwan.
who. Yeah, the HUY throws me every time.
Yep.
He's just always like has such a positive attitude the whole
He's
time. He's
always
just kind of
positive.
smiling and everything.
I love when I saw him and Harrison Ford like
Mm-hmm.
connect, and he just gave Harrison Ford a hug and
Mm-hmm.
like Indy.
Yeah, and so what was the other thing? Oh, like you said, this whole time he's like acting like Mobius is trying to act like he remembers, but he makes it sound like he didn't even like he knew of this place, but he didn't like he said, like, I don't even know if I actually have been down here. Basically, I said at one point, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did, and so he doesn't remember it, but he was there apparently at one point. Excuse me. We then are back in the past TVA, and Loki time slips back to Obi's shop, and Obi is like just standing there working on something, and just Loki disappears. And Loki's like, Ouroboros. And he's like, can I call you OB? And he says, OB? And he's like, says he likes that
I
name.
like that.
And then he's like, do I know you? And they talk about how Loki knows future OB and explains his time slipping. OB's like, says it's impossible to time slip in TVA, but sees it and is having a hard time reconciling what he just saw. Just like the present
Yeah.
OB is having the same issue trying to reconcile this. But Mobius tells Mobius he knows he saw Loki time slip. He's has never seen that before, but then a memory just all of a sudden like comes to him. He's like, wait, what's your friend's name? Loki. And he's like, oh yeah, he did come to me once and ask how to fix the time slipping.
Right, which is this is to your point about the crack probably not being in the there before, like it's kind of
Yep.
it gets creating the past as he time what's it? Time
Time
shifts?
slips.
Time slips.
Time
Yeah.
slips. Yep.
Which sounds
That's
like
definitely
something
yeah.
something for
It's
keeping
like he's
track of your
broken.
work time, but
Loki's broken
yeah.
at this point. So yeah, so present OB basically starts remembering this like encounter with Loki as Loki's in the past, making this memory happen. So it's a little mind-boggling to try to keep up with. But Mobius asks if he remembers remembering this because Loki traveled back into the past and is talking about this basically at the same moment, kind of thing. So then we jump back to the past. Obi tells Loki again that it is impossible, but Loki says, I was just with you in the future. And then Obi says the only way to stop the time slipping is to use a temporal or extractor and someone in his correct time period to use it. And so then we jump back to present time, TVA, and Mobius asks Obi if he has a temporal or extractor, because it's like they're having the conversation's happening, but it's like the same conversation, but with two different periods. Weird. And then where was it? Oh yeah, right there. So yeah, Mobius asks if he has, and he's like, I do not. Then we go back to the past and we see Loki playing around with stuff on Obi's desk while Obi makes the extractor, and then he's like, we're just waiting. And then I think Obi in the past says, "Oh, it's done. We got the extractor here." And then we jump back to the present, and Obi then says, or no, Mobius asks Obi if he has an extractor, and then he's like, at first he's like, no, and then all of a sudden he's like, wait, I do have an extractor. And then he looks down, he's like, it's right here.
Yeah.
What the hell? All right. Yeah. So then Mobius asks how he needs to use the extractor, and says he needs to get to the temporal, or OB tells Mobius that he needs to get to the temporal loom,
Which is a great name for it.
Yeah, it is.
Like
I
the
like
strands and everything.
Yep. But we don't know what that is yet. We haven't been introduced to the temporal loom. We just know its name. So then we go back to the past. Loki then says to OB, he looks well. First, when we jump back, Loki's like looks distressed, and he's like, "I have to violently rip myself from every thread of time." And then Obi's like, "Yeah, basically, you have to prune yourself, or yeah, he has to prune himself for the extract, and the extractor will pull him into the present." Which sounds great. He's like, "Perfect. Sounds great." Like, he just sounds so thrilled about this. And then Obi just randomly says something says like I think he asked like what would happen if it didn't work, and Obi says, "You ever heard of the black hole and spaghetti?" And then you just hear like after a while like Loki grunt and is gone. Is that how it went? Yeah,
Yeah,
black
like
hole and spaghetti,
well, he
and he just
says
disappears.
something about glad you didn't ask me about how
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
going through a
That's what I
black
was
hole
gonna say.
turns you into spaghetti or whatever. Yeah,
I just,
which is
yeah,
actually pretty scientifically. I mean, obviously it's all
correct.
hypothetical, but yeah, like I think that was one of the ways it was described. It's just like getting
I
split
would
down into.
definitely not want to know how that would feel.
Yeah, I
It's
think
kind
it
of
would
like
be
when you
very
saw,
instant.
right? It's probably like in the Ant-Man when they had that big Ant-Man, he turned into like spaghetti, or like what's his name, Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange. Wanted to turn him into spaghetti,
Yeah.
basically.
Ah.
All right, so now we're back in the present. Loki slips back in time and kind of scares Mobius. And Mobius and Loki are both complaining about their roles they have to do in correcting the time slipping of Loki. Because apparently, I forgot to mention this before, but uh, OV is like telling Mobius that he has to go out to this temporal loom where it's like he's getting blasted with temporal energy, and if he doesn't do it in enough time, his skin's gonna peel off and he'll die. Like, and Mobius is like, my skin will peel off and die, and Loki's like, wait, I have to violently rip myself through every thread of time. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound good. And then Mobius is like, yours sounds better than losing all your skin. He's like, are you serious? What do you mean losing all your skin? Like they're just bantering back and forth. I'm like, I love this. This is great. And so then as they're like trying to, think of a different way, they ask, is there another way? And OB just hands the prune stick. As he's doing that, he sees his lamp flickering, and Moby says that there are power surges, and Obi looks concerned. And then Obi finds out about the timeline branching and the overloading. It's causing overloading of the temporal loom. Obi talks about the TVA guidebook as the lights are flickering about because Mobius or not Mobius, Loki asks what's the temporal loom, and he's like, it's in the handbook. And he's like, what's the handbook? And he's like, it's the handbook. It's what I wrote. And he's like, it's basically not everywhere on every desk.
Right.
Okay.
And this is part of the reason I'm thinking like he's kind of like maybe running the show a little
The
bit.
show. Gotta watch out for OB.
Yeah, I mean it could be like it could be more along the lines of Mads Mikkelsen in Rogue One designing the Death Star despite being a good guy, like you know.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say here. I wanted to see something. So okay, so we get to the after they like are talking and Loki gets a copy of the TVA guidebook. They approach a door, and as they're approaching, the light behind them breaks, like burst, and they approach this big red door, and all you hear is this loud like bang behind the door happening.
Real quick before that there was also a moment where Mobius is holding the what's it
Oh,
called?
temporal loom
Temporal
or the
or
temporal
the
extractor,
extractor thing, yeah.
and there's a piece that fell off.
Yeah. He's like, is that important?
Yeah, he's just. I don't even think OB acknowledged anything. He just like kept on going.
Yeah.
Uh, Here's one thing I wanted to say. So at the beginning of the door, like it says danger. It says temporary radiation levels escalate exponentially beyond this this threshold. Likelihood of spaghettification increasing 7,000%. Proceed with caution.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God! Wow, talk
wow.
about that's a Easter
That's a
egg for you.
you're right. I was just like, geez, I wouldn't want to go in that room. Um so yeah, they approach that red door and they hear that loud banging. The doors start to open and they walk into the secure room as they see they're basically lit up by a bright light and looking at the temporal loom, overloading and trying to weave all these branches together. Um, Obi says they ask like, like, has this ever happened before? And Obi's like, no, I've never had to worry about it because Miss Minutes basically ran everything, and every few hundred years he ran diagnostics, making sure everything was good to go. But with Miss Minutes gone and missing, she's basically not doing anything. So I don't know if she could have stopped with the temporal loom, but either way, it's kind of screwed right now. Um, they asked how to stop the loom from overloading, and OB says by pruning the branches, but B15 says they can't do that because they're gonna, people are gonna die. So then OB says, well, I have to close the blast doors while I can modify the loom to take more branches in. Loki or OB then, is like, okay, we're gonna have to do this pretty soon here. And Loki's literally ready to prune himself, and OB's like, no, not yet, like
Well,
in an hour.
specifically, he says now. We have to do this now. So he's like,
Oh, you're
okay.
right.
And I thought he was gonna totally do it, and he's like, wait, not now. Now, like,
Like an hour from now. But then the temporal power or energy hits the window and cracks it, and he's like, okay, you got 5 minutes. Kind of like,
mm-hmm,
yeah, 1 hour.
mm-hmm,
Then it cracks. You have 5 minutes.
mm-hmm.
I love that. um. So yeah, QB or OB QB. OB explains what Mobius and Loki have to do in using the loom to pull Loki out of the time slipping and Mobius avoiding losing his skin. And I think I don't know if it's right before this or like after is where Mobius like writes skin in the on the side of like one of the monitors that has dust on it.
Yeah, skin with a question mark.
Like Mobius, oh, he's poor guy's just thinking about his losing his skin right now. Um. So then, yeah, D90 comes in saying that saying Dox is raiding the armory and basically Loki's in like because they want to look for Sylvie and Loki's like ready to go and Mobius stops him like no, you have to stay here, we have to figure out your issue. And then B15 and ooh, did I put B20?
It's
D90.
vitamins. B90X.
Yeah, D90 go take care of this issue or go see what's going on and try to take care of it. um and then Mobius and Loki start talking, and Loki like basically has a I don't know, it's like a gauge that OB gave him to like it has a red and a green, and once he passes the green, that's when he's supposed to prune himself. And as they're talking about this, he then time slips again, and the prune stick falls out of his hand. Luckily, he still has the meter to hold on, but he doesn't have a prune stick now. Um, and then we basically get to where am I here? Oh yeah. Okay, so we're in the future TVA. We Loki ends up in the same room, obviously, where they were just at. And he sees the skin note from when Mobius was writing in
Mm-hmm.
there. So now he's in the future TVA and has no time stick. And then you see him run off before we're go back to the present. And then we see OB suits up Mobius and explains what he has to do and has to do it quick. or his skin will peel away and die. And then as he's suiting up, like Mobius notices a crack in his
That a
helmet.
crack?
Yeah, and Obi just puts some duct tape on it, and I don't know if you
Slaps a.
noticed this, but when he's out in the loom area, the duct tape doesn't get all like disintegrated. Like I didn't notice it well, but I was watching New Rock Stars, and then they mentioned, I'm like, what? And yeah, the duct
Indestructible.
tape's not affected. Of course, it can take temporal energy as well. Um, so yeah, Mobius goes outside to the I keep on putting an K here. Loom to see and see him getting blasted with this temporal energy that's basically eating away slowly at the suit. You can see it's like every time you see a wave of light energy hitting him, it kind of just slowly takes away a piece of his stuff, like the suit and whatnot, the equipment. Um, so then we go to the future TVA again, seeing Loki running around looking for a time stick, and it looks like chaos is starting to happen a lot. But and then we jump back to the present, seeing Mobius make it near the loom, and he gets the extractor set. And once it's set, you see him just looking at the loom, and it's I don't know, it's like this contraption kind of spins towards the where the extractor is. It's like in this bigger thing that turns towards the loom. Um, and then we go to the future TVA. Loki is still running around and looking for his stick, and there's again more chaos. Lights are flickering. Things are starting to like structures look like they're falling apart while he looks out and one of the open areas where you can see out to its TVA. Um, let's see. Then we go back. We go to the present again. See the extractor getting fired into the timeline near the loom, like it's right before strands start going into the loom. We go present. Obi tells Mobius they are out of time. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Future. We go present, then we go to the future. You see Loki running down the hall, and then we see the meter Obi gave him go green. At that point, he starts hearing a telephone ringing. Tries, looks down the hallway for it. Then we go to present. This is where Obi tells Mobius they are out of time and need to close the blast doors, and Mobius says, "Give him more time." Future TVA, Loki walks slowly down that hall looking for that ringing telephone. As he
Slowly.
finds it,
It's almost like a
yeah,
horror film or something.
right, yeah, he's like scared of a ringing phone, but who knows? We, as he looking at the phone, then he hears some noise coming from the elevator door. He starts looking at it, and then jump back to the present. Obi starts counting down, closed doors. As he's counting down, you notice he's like says three, three,
Yeah.
like he's like, come on.
Uh-huh.
We see Mobius waiting outside as his suit is disintegrating more, and hears the doors starting to close because Obi has now hit the emergency closing of the blast doors. Mobius looks and is still waiting for Loki as Obi says there's nothing they can do. And then Mobius starts, I don't think he starts walking back. It's more like, I don't know, hobbling back to the
Yeah.
door.
Oh yeah. Did we say before how he told Obi that he was you're never you'll never have seen someone what does he say, like sprint so fast or
Yeah,
whatever
it
out
was
there.
like, I can't remember the exact line. It was weird. It was a weird saying to run.
Yeah, it turns out you can't because he was just like, okay.
You look
He
like a
goes up.
Teletubby. So yeah, then we go to the future, back to the future. We go to the
Nah.
future, and the elevator door opens, and we see Sylvie right there, and she's like, "There you are." And then Loki is all of a sudden
No time.
starts pruning. He gets pruned by someone behind him. We don't know who.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, because you can see the prune stick right in the middle. and you see there's someone behind him that walks up slowly behind him and prunes him.
I assumed it was her.
No, it wasn't her because she was in front of him, and the prune you could see the prune stick like the front of it coming from behind him
Um,
as he's getting pruned.
okay. Yeah,
So
because his but this was a cool scene though at the same time because like, you can kind it's quick, but you can kind of see his expression go from like surprise to like he's almost got tears.
it looks agonizing.
Well, I thought he had like tears of joy to see her,
Oh, probably.
and then quickly into just anguish, like getting pruned.
Yeah, yeah. I it must hurt to be pruned.
Yeah.
um, so we see Mobius walking towards the door, and then as he's walking, he just all of a sudden turns around, and you see Loki just all of a sudden get like pulled out of the timeline or the branches, and literally the extractor rope or whatever he's on tether slingshots him basically in the Mobius and makes like gets them through the blast doors as they're like ready to shut. So I was like, oh, that's the luck of the draw right there. I guess how does that happen? But hey, it happened. So
Yeah, and he was tethered on like onto a thread or something basically.
something, yeah, it's like the extractor thread or something. Yeah, it was weird. It was really quick.
Yeah.
But hey, they both made it. No one lost their skin. So
Yeah, and Loki without a flinch, he's just like, we gotta find Sylvie. Like,
yeah, he's like, we gotta find Sylvie, and then so we then jump over. We see Docs and a lot of hunters have a bunch of bags, equipment, and they have reset charges and other things that we don't know of yet what they have. And B-15 is wondering where they are going. Like it kind of looks like overkill. And then that's the end of that episode.
I like Herschel's theory here that the person on the end of on the ringing phone was calling about your extended warranty.
Yeah, right. But we're we think we're at the end, but there's actually a uh end credit scene, which not used to that on the first episode, but yeah.
Mm.
But we are shown into a 1982 branch timeline slash McDonald's area. Um, so then first off, we see Sylvie in a field just looking around, just kind of seeing what's around where she's at. She then walks into a McDonald's and walks up to the register and asks how she does this, and basically the teller's like, well, or the cashier's like, yeah, you just order stuff, and she tells the cashier no rats, rodents, or anything with a face. I was like, that's funny. Then the cashier says to try their new chicken nuggets and list off some of the other items, like I think it was a Big Mac and something else. But
Mm-hmm.
and she just starts looking around at people in the restaurant, like living their lives, and she then says that she'll try everything.
And
And you see the cashier like kind of like, oh, okay.
I pretty much predicted that because for whatever reason I'm like, yeah, you can sense she probably hasn't eaten good food in a while or something, and I was
Now
like,
she's
yep,
like,
I'll take one of everything basically.
and now
Um,
there's so much chaos. She's like, I don't have to worry about TVA right now.
Sorry, real quick. I just want to make sure you talked about this last line of before the stinger part. You talked about that part. The
Yeah. The
okay,
hunters going through the time portal or time doors to we don't know where, but they had all this equipment and time charges. So yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And that was it.
All right. Well, let's get to it.
I'm gonna go with a solid 4-4.
4-4. I actually had time to think about this, and I think I'm only going 4-0 on this one, which
I
is
liked it. It was fun.
still good. 4 out of 5, still
I
good.
think I gave the extra 4 because of Hugh Kwan.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was happy to see him.
Right on.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Loki episode season 2, episode 1.
Uh-huh. Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good to see the show back. And I gotta say, like, it has one of the best. They do really well with their like end credit sequences, and
I think the two best shows so far has just been Loki and WandaVision for me. I mean, the other ones are good, but it's not
of Marvel
okay,
shows specifically.
Yeah.
So this is what I meant. This is what I meant to say last episode of for our last episode of Ahsoka is I think that quickly became my favorite Star Wars series. I think. Maybe I was even gonna say series at all. Loki's up there for sure. Loki's just really well done. And maybe that's probably part of the reason I honestly, if I'm being honest, that's probably why I didn't rate it as high on this episode because I'm almost expecting more. But I'll admit that, like, I expect a lot from this show based on the first season. But
I agree. Yeah, it's a good series.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we did it. Good job, Mike. Well done. Well done. Hey, everybody. If you want to write into us, you can do so at disnerdsplus@gmail.com or visit disnerdsplus.com. I gotta keep changing up the time here. Still recording Thursdays. Maybe 7:30 Central. We're exploring that a little bit earlier, just because 8:30 is kind of late. But twitch.tv/ShaveMadOx is where you can do that. You can find Mike at Cool as a Cucumber, and you can find me at ShaveMadOx. And until next time, what do we say with this one? What do we say?
Adios.
Something with time. Time is on your side. No. Variant. I got nothing. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Later.
Is that the tempo loco, Herschel? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I'll look this up. Tempo.
Oh, that was good.
Loco. Crazy time? Well, I should have figured that was what it meant. How do you pronounce that? Is it like I just said? Tiempo?
Tempo.
Crazy time is a perfect thing to say. How'd you come up with that, Herschel?
Crazy time.
Until next time, Tiempo Loco. Good stuff, good stuff. I feel pretty good about just taking it easy and doing an episode each time. Because especially...
I'm good with that.
Vodka, all ideas flow from... not because you're drinking it, not because it's a brand name or something. That'd be Four Loco. Good stuff, good stuff.
I'm trying to figure out here.
What's that?
Oh, so if you wanted to, you could use the TVA motto for all time, always. Ooh.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. All time, always. Bye, y'all.
Are you gonna do that? Just make them miss minutes.
Oh yeah, I could have just said bye. I even thought of that earlier. Bye, y'all. Yeah, we'll have to agree on that. All time.
Now I'm gonna go watch Loki episode 3.
Yeah, I was confused. What what time does that come out?
8 o'clock
p.m.
Yep.
Okay. Don't they normally?
Well, they're doing this whole new thing where they don't release the episode until later at night.
Okay.
So, and they do it. They base the time off of California time because I think it releases at 6 out there.
Okay. Yeah.
We get 8. East Coast gets 9.
Mm-hmm. Okay, they just keep testing out new things. Whatever.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Bob Iger is changing things up. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose. Herschel, you want to play Sea of Thieves still?
Yeah, I'm gonna go and chill, and then I'm gonna go to bed after 10. So yay.
Yeah. I mean, I could post this episode. I don't really have a hurry on posting this episode, I suppose.
Do what you,
The one thing I still have to do is put out like some kind of description, some kind of summary, and I don't know how. I'm thinking about not getting too carried away with those descriptions too. Anywho.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, good podcast.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
You as well. Adios.
Bye. Thanks, Herschel. Thanks, anyone else that may be watching the VOD. Take care. Be good, stay safe, all that fun stuff. Bye.